Okay, ready for this? OpenAI, the company behind those mind-blowing AI models like ChatGPT, is diving headfirst into the quest for a longer human lifespan.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
I know, right? What do you think about that?
Well, it's a fascinating development, and what's particularly intriguing is how they're approaching it. It's not just about tacking on a few extra years. They're aiming to understand and potentially manipulate the fundamental processes of aging at a cellular level.
Right, they're going deep. They're using this new AI model called GPT-4b micro to explore something called cellular reprogramming. I was reading that it's all about resetting cells to a younger state, kind of like hitting the rewind button on aging.
That's the idea. And while the concept of cellular reprogramming itself isn't new, the way OpenAI is leveraging AI is a potential game changer. Traditional methods have been incredibly difficult and inefficient.
Yeah, that's what I was reading too. So that's where GPT-4b micro comes in. I'm no biologist, but from what I understand, this AI can analyze mountains of biological data, like protein sequences and interactions, to find ways to make cellular reprogramming much more effective. It's like having a super-powered research assistant that can process information at speeds we can't even comprehend.
That's a great analogy. It allows scientists to explore possibilities that would have taken years, if not decades, to uncover through traditional methods.
So tell me, what's the key to this whole cellular reprogramming thing? What are they actually targeting?
The key lies in something called Yamanaka factors. These are a set of proteins that have the remarkable ability to transform normal cells into what are called induced pluripotent stem cells, or iPSCs. Essentially, these iPSCs are like cellular blank slates. They have the potential to become any type of cell in the body.
Hold on, so you're telling me they can take, say, my skin cells and turn them back into cells that could become heart tissue, brain cells, you name it. That's wild. I can see how this could be huge for regenerative medicine and treating those age-related diseases we all want to avoid.
Exactly. It opens up a whole new world of possibilities. Imagine being able to repair damaged organs or tissues by simply reprogramming the body's own cells.
Yeah, it's almost like science fiction becoming reality, isn't it? But you mentioned that traditional methods for creating iPSCs were really inefficient.
That's right. We're talking success rates of less than 1%, and the process taking weeks. It's a bit like trying to find a needle in a haystack while wearing a blindfold.
Okay, so how is OpenAI claiming that GPT-4b micro is already changing the game? What have they achieved so far?
Well, in early tests, GPT-4b micro has been able to suggest modifications to these Yamanaka factors that have increased their effectiveness by a staggering 50 times.
Wait, 50 times? That's incredible. So they're basically turbocharging the whole process of cellular reprogramming. What does that mean in practical terms for, let's say, treating a disease like Alzheimer's?
Well, it's still early days, and we need to be cautious about overpromising. But in theory, this kind of accelerated efficiency could revolutionize how we approach age-related diseases. Imagine being able to generate healthy brain cells to replace those damaged by Alzheimer's, potentially slowing or even reversing the disease's progression.
That's a game changer, right? And to think that this AI is coming up with modifications that are potentially better than what human scientists have been able to achieve on their own.
It's a powerful example of how AI can augment and accelerate scientific discovery.
However,
it's important to remember that this research is still in its early stages, and the full data hasn't been published yet.
Right, it still needs to go through the rigorous process of scientific peer review and validation. But even so, the potential here is mind-blowing. It makes you wonder, what are the implications if this technology really takes off? I mean, we're talking about potentially extending human lifespans significantly, right?
Absolutely. It's not just about living longer, but about living healthier for longer. That's the real prize here. But with that prize comes a whole set of new questions and challenges, both for individuals and for society as a whole.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Before we jump into those big picture questions, I'm curious about how this research by OpenAI stacks up against other big players in the AI world who are also dabbling in healthcare and longevity. We've heard so much about Google DeepMind and their AlphaFold project. Didn't that make waves for predicting protein structures?
You're right. AlphaFold was a groundbreaking achievement. It changed the landscape of protein research. But there's a key difference between AlphaFold and what OpenAI is doing with GPT-4b micro.
Lay it on me. What's the difference?
AlphaFold is brilliant at predicting the structure of proteins. It's like having a 3D blueprint of a protein. GPT-4b micro, on the other hand, is focused on actually improving protein function. It's like saying, okay, we know the structure, but how can we tweak it to make this protein work even better?
So it's like AlphaFold is the architect, and GPT-4b micro is the engineer coming in to optimize the design for maximum performance.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And they're focusing on these flexible proteins like the Yamanaka factors, right?
Exactly. These proteins are known to be quite dynamic and adaptable, which makes them perfect candidates for this kind of optimization.
This is also fascinating. So where does this leave OpenAI and their GPT-4b micro project? What's the next step for them? What's on the horizon?
They've indicated that the project is still in the testing phase, so we'll have to wait and see how things progress.
So it's a wait-and-see situation for now?
Yeah.
But it feels like we're on the verge of some truly remarkable breakthroughs. Absolutely. This research has the potential to revolutionize how we think about aging and age-related diseases. It's opening up new frontiers in medicine and healthcare. And it's sparking some much-needed conversations about the future of our society.
You've definitely piqued my curiosity. I'm ready to dive into those bigger societal questions now. But before we do that, let's take a quick detour and explore some real-world examples of people who are already living remarkably long and healthy lives. Have you ever heard of the blue zones?
Of course. Those are the regions around the world where people routinely live well into their 90s and even beyond. I've always been fascinated by them.
Well, buckle up, because we're about to take a virtual trip to these longevity hotspots to uncover their secrets. Okay, so we've got OpenAI working on the cutting edge of cellular reprogramming. But it turns out there are already places in the world where people are living remarkably long lives. These blue zones, as they're called, sound like something out of a travel magazine. Where are we going first on our virtual tour?
Well, let's start with Okinawa, Japan. It's one of the original blue zones identified by researchers, and it's a place where centenarians, people who live to be 100 or older, are surprisingly common.
Centenarians just walking around like it's no big deal. Sign me up. What's their secret? Is it something in the water? Special seaweed? Spell the longevity tea?
Well, it's not magic, but it might feel like it. Researchers have studied these blue zone communities extensively, and while there's no single magic bullet, they've found some fascinating commonalities.
Okay, I'm all ears. What have they uncovered?
First and foremost, it's about community and connection. These aren't societies where people isolate themselves as they age. They prioritize relationships and have strong social networks that provide support and purpose.
So it's not just about what you eat or how much you exercise, but who you spend your time with. That makes sense. We're social creatures, after all. What else makes these blue zones so special?
They all tend to have a largely plant-based diet.
Yeah.
They eat lots of fruits, vegetables, legumes, and whole grains. They're not necessarily strict vegetarians, but meat is more of a side dish than the main event.
That sounds a lot like the Mediterranean diet, which we know has tons of health benefits. Okay, so community plant-based diets. What else?
They're physically active, but not in the way you might think. It's not about spending hours at the gym. It's about weaving movement into everyday life. They garden walk to the store, do household chores. It's all about staying active naturally.
So it's less about intense workouts and more about consistent, moderate activity throughout the day.
Yeah.
I can get behind that. Anything else? I'm starting to think I need to book a one-way ticket to one of these blue zones.
Well, they also seem to have this knack for stress management. They have built-in rituals and practices, whether it's meditation, prayer, spending time in nature, or just connecting with loved ones that help them unwind and de-stress.
It sounds like they have a very holistic approach to well-being. It's not just about one aspect of health, but about nurturing all aspects of life, physical, mental, and social.
Exactly. And there's one more key ingredient, a sense of purpose. They feel connected to something bigger than themselves, whether it's their family, community, or faith. They have a reason to get up in the morning, a sense of meaning that keeps them going.
So it's not just about living longer, but about living a life filled with purpose and connection. It's about adding life to our years, not just years to our lives, right? But here's the question. Are these blue zone lessons only applicable to these specific communities? Or can we steal some of their secrets and apply them to our own lives?
That's the exciting part. These blue zone principles aren't exclusive to these far-off places. They're things we can all incorporate into our lives no matter where we live or what our circumstances are.
Okay, so no magic seaweed required. That's good to know. But realistically, while I might be able to eat more veggies and hang out with my friends more, OpenAI is working with advanced AI. How do these more traditional approaches even compare to the potential of cellular reprogramming and these other cutting-edge technologies we've been discussing? Are they even in the same league?
It's an interesting question. On the one hand, you have the high-tech approach of manipulating our biology at a cellular level. On the other hand, you have these time-tested lifestyle practices that have demonstrably led to longer, healthier lives. Perhaps the most powerful approach is to combine the best of both worlds.
So it's not an either-or situation. It's more about using technology to enhance and support those fundamental lifestyle practices.
Precisely. Imagine a future where we have access to both the technological breakthroughs like cellular reprogramming and the wisdom of the blue zones. We could potentially live longer and healthier lives than ever before. But it wouldn't just be about adding years. It'd be about adding life to those years.
That's a future I can get behind. But extending human lifespan is a big deal. It's not just about individual health. It has massive implications for society as a whole, right?
Absolutely. We're talking about potentially reshaping our economy, our healthcare systems, our social structures, everything. It's a paradigm shift on a scale that's hard to even grasp.
Okay, now I'm getting a little nervous. Where do we even begin to unpack all of that? What are some of the biggest societal challenges we'd face in a world where people are routinely living well into their hundreds or beyond?
Well, first, we'd need to rethink our entire concept of retirement. Our current systems are built on the assumption that people will work for a certain number of years and then retire. If people are living longer and staying healthier for longer, that model just doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, I was reading an article that said Social Security and pensions could face major strain if people are living decades longer than they were designed to support.
Exactly. It's not just about the financial systems. It's about the structure of careers and education. We need to move away from the traditional linear career path of education, work, and then retirement. It might become more common for people to have multiple careers throughout their lives with periods of work, education, and leisure interwoven.
So instead of climbing the corporate ladder, it's more about exploring different passions and continually learning and adapting over a much longer lifespan. I guess the whole idea of retirement as a time to just relax and wind down might become obsolete.
You're getting it. It's about staying engaged and active mentally and physically throughout life.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where people in their 70s, 80s, and even 90s are still contributing to society, sharing their knowledge and experience and pursuing new passions. The lines between generations might blur, creating a more diverse and multi-generational workforce.
I can see the potential benefits, but let's face it, there are also potential downsides to all of this, right? What about overpopulation? If people are living longer, wouldn't that put a huge strain on the planet's resources? We're already facing challenges with sustainability.
It's a valid concern and one that we definitely need to address. But it's not a foregone conclusion that longer lifespans will automatically lead to overpopulation.
Okay, so what are some of the counter-arguments to that overpopulation concern? What makes you think we might be able to avoid that potential pitfall?
Well, for one, longer lifespans could potentially lead to lower birth rates. We've already seen this trend in many developed countries where life expectancy is high.
So people might choose to have fewer children if they know they have more time to experience life and pursue their goals.
Exactly. And as people live longer, their focus might shift from expanding their families to other priorities, like personal growth, lifelong learning, or contributing to their communities.
That makes sense. It's not just about quantity of life, but quality of life.
Right. And we can't underestimate the power of human ingenuity. Technological advancements could also help us address the challenges of resource management and sustainability.
Okay, so maybe longer lifespans could even drive innovation in those areas. We might be more motivated to find solutions if we know we're in it for the long haul, literally.
It's possible. We might see a greater emphasis on renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, and responsible consumption. Plus, imagine the accumulated knowledge and experience that people would bring to these challenges if they were living for a century or more.
That's a great point. It's like having a whole team of seasoned problem solvers working on the world's toughest challenges. But I can't help but think about those dystopian sci-fi movies where the super rich have access to life-extending technologies, creating a massive divide between the haves and the have-nots. Is that a realistic concern?
It's definitely a concern we need to take seriously. Equity and access are absolutely crucial. We need to ensure that any life-extending technologies and treatments are available to everyone, regardless of their income, social status, or geographic location.
We don't want to create a world where only the privileged few get to experience the benefits of longevity. That would be a recipe for social unrest and instability.
Exactly. And it's not just about access to technology. We also need to address the social and economic structures that contribute to inequality. We need to think about things like access to healthcare education and opportunities for meaningful work throughout the lifespan.
It's a tall order. But it seems like these conversations about longevity are forcing us to confront some of the biggest challenges facing humanity. It's not just about science and technology, it's about reimagining what kind of world we want to create.
That's what makes this so fascinating. It's not just a scientific endeavor, it's a philosophical and societal one. We're essentially writing a new chapter in the human story, and it's up to us to decide what that chapter will look like.
It's a lot of responsibility, but also an incredible opportunity. And it all starts with having these conversations, exploring different perspectives, and challenging our assumption.
Absolutely. And we need to involve everyone in these discussions, not just scientists and policymakers, but everyday people. The future of longevity belongs to all of us.
So to all of you listening out there, we want to hear from you. What are your hopes and fears about the possibility of significantly extending human lifespans? What kind of world do you envision? Share your thoughts with us on social media or on our website. This is a conversation we need to have together.
We're at a crossroads, and the choices we make today will shape the future of humanity for generations to come. So make sure it's a future we can all be proud of.
Well said. This deep dive has been a wild ride, and I have a feeling we've only just scratched the surface of this topic. There's so much more to explore, so much more to learn.
It's an ongoing journey, and we're all in this together.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.